A pleasant morning to everyone. So, before we start the class, let us pray first. Let us put ourselves in the holy presence of God in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall, be world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, dear students.
Ayun, ma'am.
Okay, so please give me a minute. I'll just be sharing my screen with you. Okay, so let us begin. Having checked the class list for the batch one of BS Tourism Management, I can see there are four names here. Let's have the roll call for attendance. Debbie Ann Gagi. Did I mention pronounce your surname right, Miss Debbie Ann?
Yes po, correct po, present po.
Okay, thank you. Then Raydeline Orbita.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning po.
Good morning. And then Stephanie Chu. Morning. And Judy Lane, Kate, Zeta. How do you pronounce your first name? Sorry. Miss Zeta. Miss Zeta, are you still with us? Good morning. Okay, so you are four in the class. Again, a pleasant morning to everyone. My name is Mrs. Jane Catherine de la Cruz. So I'll be your professor for this subject, and of course also for the other professional courses, particularly in strategic management, legal aspects for tourism and hospitality, and of course, your research in tourism. So, just to give you a brief background about myself, I am also one of the deans of the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management in Arellano University. Currently, I'm handling the Pasig campus. It's the biggest population, the campus with the biggest population in terms of enrolled students. Although the main campus is located in Legarda, where you are currently attending your classes to. And of course, we are operating under a system, and there are four other campuses that offer hospitality management and tourism management programs. But under ETIAP, We operate only in the main campus, which is in Negarda. So, one of your faculty experts and internal assessor, so I am here to share with you my, of course, experiences and the learning that you're supposed to be able to have from each course. But since this is ETIAC and you're already working and you are also considered already as professionals, industry professionals, the approach that we are taking in terms of dealing with each subject is more of the application and assessment of your competencies. From there, we can see what needs to still be enhanced. That's why the subjects that you are taking up in the curriculum are divided into clusters. And of course, professional subjects, cluster 3 include actually the subject of business communications and tourism hospitality industry. Now, of course, the importance of communication in hospitality and tourism industry cannot be disregarded. If you would be really immersed in this industry, you would realize how important communication is, especially on a day to day basis in terms of dealing with customer transactions, particularly guests, passengers. So it's really important to manage communication, especially when you're dealing with guests, VIP guests, or guests who have special needs. So when we're talking about business communication, always we'll be dealing with applications in the business, and it's particularly in hospitality and tourism. Okay, yes, Mizeta. I'm hoping I was able to pronounce your name right.
Good morning po. Judy Lane po.
Ayun. Yeah, I had the same guess.
Salamat po.
Of course, I would like to hear from you how your name should be pronounced. And thank you for that. Thank you for enlightening
Mm.
us. Yeah, so welcome to Arellano University ETIAP program to everyone here. Although you're only four in the batch of tourism, um, we in ETIAP, of course, cater to each and every individual student. So we're hoping that every learning needs will be met with the program that we are currently offering. Now you'll be undertaking a lot of subjects, a lot of requirements, but don't you worry for the business com. I'll be giving you the learning activities right after our subject, so you don't have to um, get to spend so many sleepless nights to perform the learning tasks or come up with the projects and the submission of the outputs. So, right after this, we're going to apply what you have learned through a series of tests. So, these are learning activities, and at the same time, they're already learning assessments because as I've said, you're already industry professionals. So there is already the evident manifestation of your communication skills. What we only need to do is to be able to enhance it or be able to have the assessment of your communication skills so that it can be more, of course, in application to the industry of tourism and hospitality. You may have your individual reasons why you have chosen to enroll in this program, but one thing is for sure. Of course, you want to earn the degree, the bachelor's degree, towards the end of the year. Now, our role as the faculty members and, of course, as your advisor as your subject or professor in the research subject, we're really going to be dealing with a lot of interactions, especially in the future when you're having your research defense. I may be your advisor, or I may be assigned as your panelist. So who knows? Now, before we get into that, let's move on with the subject proper. Okay, so just specifically, I would like to enlighten you with the course description of Hospitality and Tourism Business Communication. So, supposedly, the course is designed to enrich your confidence level as well as your professionalism as applied in the tourism industry as well as in hospitality through effective business communication skills. Now, we're focusing on formal business communication processes commonly used in the workplace in this industry. And it doesn't only cover the verbal communication skills, but even nonverbal cues or the nonverbal language is also being considered. And also, the different skills, like for example, aside from writing, you have reading skills, your listening skills, and most importantly, your public speaking skills or your business presentation skills. These are the intended learning outcomes for this course. One, be able to gain understanding of the business communication concepts which serve as basis for effective spoken and written communication in the business setting. Then I'll be dealing with the different concepts like meta communication, kinetic communication. So you get to learn more about this in a while. Develop the fundamental skills of business communication techniques as well as the ability to be effective in writing business documents. Because, of course, later on we're dealing with the tips and, of course, your exercises are set in place so that you can practice your written skills as well as your other skills, enhance your listening, critical, reflective thinking, as well as responding skills. Okay, so let's start with the first exercise. Through this exercise, what we mean to do here is to be able to emphasize the value of communication, the power that the communication holds in every business transaction. Now, I would be telling you phrases or slogans or very memorable phrases that you can associate with a particular brand. So let's see if you can recall what particular brand is being related to with this set of phrases. Okay, so let's start with the first one. We find ways. Okay, yes, Miss Chu. Yes, very good. So, of course, it's video. Yeah. Although some would want to contest that because in some branches there are no seats and there are long queues. So sometimes the convenience or the comfortability of the customers are in question in what we say. We find ways. Okay, let's have the next one. It's more fun in the Philippines. Yes, Miss Gagi, Dabi.
Depart- Department of Tourism.
Yes, very good. So the DOT. Now, of course, we have the different slogan now, Love the Philippines. But I don't know if you would be agreeing with me. One that has been very, very catchy was It's More Fun in the Philippines. Okay. Again, it's the Department of Tourism or DOT. Okay, let's have the next one. How thoughtful, how blank. Any guess? Actually, the last part was the name of the brand. So, how thoughtful, how? Miss Orbita, what's your guess? Raydeline?
Um,
Sorry, ma'am, I don't have any idea.
Okay, I understand. How about you, Mizeta? Any idea?
Sorry po, wala akong idea.
Okay, sige. Let's hear from Miss Chu. Very good. So, how thoughtful, how Goldilocks. Yan, tama. And the last one, your home in the sky. This one you should be familiar with. Yes, Miss Gagi.
Philippine Airlines.
Okay, yes. So, it's Scholar Philippine Airlines. Okay. So, as you have heard from the phrases, the slogans, which have been catchy, there was like that very instant response that you were able to identify the brand which you associate these phrases with. So that's how powerful communication is, especially in business. It can, of course, create the positioning, it can create in the mindset of the target market, the customers, what impression would you like to have in their minds with regards to the brand. So how thoughtful, how Goldilocks. So it doesn't particularly focus on the taste of the food, the taste of the pastries or cakes that they offer, but it's more on the emotional approach by which they would like the customers to have the intention or the impression with regards to how their products are being thought of. The core benefit is not about the taste of the product, the manifestation of the physical product, but more of the benefit that the product is able to give to the guests or the customers, which is, of course, the thoughtfulness or the uh, positive feeling that evokes when you give a Goldilocks item or product to another person. Okay, same with the other brands. The taglines that they use or the slogans that they use gives the advantage that they're easily being recalled or being referred to once they hear those particular phrases. Okay, so let's talk about what is business communication. Therefore, this concept is actually a process. And how does it differ with the typical communication that you have within another or with another person? Business communication is one that imparts or interchanges the thoughts, opinions, or, of course, valuable information by means of speech, writing, or signs for the business of living, learning, or earning a living. So, in short, the communication here involves the process where there is exchange of information that will benefit as in resulting to business transaction. So it is able to it actually enables a person, especially one who works in the industry of tourism and hospitality, to be engaging in the exchange of valuable information that could facilitate the business transaction. So when you try to communicate with our representative from Cebu Pacific or Philippine Airlines with regards to your concerns for rebooking or let's say refund of a canceled ticket, airfare or airfare, so that's already engaging in business communication. Well, that's just an example. So, how do we describe the process of communication? It is a cycle. It involves a process that involves several aspects, and the absence of one can actually affect all the others. So, meaning without one, all the others cannot function as in an effective communication process. Like, for example, without the message, which is the body of information, which starts the communication process. You cannot engage in business communication since there is no message to deal with in the first place. Now, the sender and receivers are both playing important roles because without the sender, then there will be no receiver. Or without the sender, even though there is a message, it cannot be sent to the receiver because basically there's no one who's going to be the source of the message or going to be sending the message to or from. And then you have the channel. The channel pertains to the way or the medium by which the message may be carried or communicated. So, meaning to say, whether it is through online or through face to face, or the channel may refer to like if you're talking through phone or uh, perhaps through email or any other channel or forms or medium by which you can communicate with another person. The receiver is the one who accepts the message. And it is very important that the receiver is able to understand the intention of the sender in sending the message. And of course, also, the importance of feedback cannot be disregarded. Why? Because without the feedback, you don't know if the communication has been successful or not. So let's say there has been a message sent by the sender to the receiver through, let's say, online, like just a messenger chat. Now, if the receiver failed to send a response, then we don't know, we cannot gauge whether the receiver is able to understand the message that was sent to him or her. And in that aspect, we may not be able to know if the message was interpreted the way exactly it was intended to be. So later on, there are cases like, for example, in meta communication, where the meaning of the message may not be the same as what it was intended to be. So you could see that there could also be barriers to communication. And when there are barriers, that could affect one of these important aspects of the process cycle of communication. So, what are the goals of communication? Why do we have to communicate with another person? Basically, all people would want to communicate because they want to be understood. Okay, so you want to express your opinion, you want to express your emotion, convey your emotion, you want to build a harmonious relationship with another person simply because you want to seek understanding from them. Now, another goal of communication is to be able to elicit response. As I mentioned earlier, without the feedback or the response, we would not know if the message was interpreted exactly the way it was meant to be. Now, to establish goodwill is another important goal of communication. And through effective communication, we are able to harbor harmonious relationship with another person. And what about if there are guest complaints or customer complaints? Now you can still turn this into a harmonious exchange of information, and simply because you have to have the different skills or the protocols or processes by which you can turn this very challenging ordeal of guest complaint into an opportunity where you can have loyal customers or loyal guests afterwards. So it's all a matter of effective communication. That's how you can win the hearts and the loyalty of your guests and customers. Now, as I've mentioned, there is what we call as meta communication. It is a verbal message that, although not expressed literally, accompanies a message that may be translated literally. So the meaning of that message may be entirely different from the literal definition of the used words. So I think you can better understand it with examples. So let me show you some. So when your boss advises you or suddenly informs you or reminds you, hey, don't be absent tomorrow, there's the intended underlying meaning to it. And that could possibly mean that you are being well, you are being given a warning or be cautious regarding your absences. So that's why you were reminded, do not be absent tomorrow. So maybe frequently absent, or in the past days or weeks you have had successive absences perhaps, and you are being orally reprimanded for this. Now, once your boss also praises you, like, your work is excellent or good job, very good work, then it may entirely mean that you are a desirable worker, that you are being favored upon, that if there could be likely chances of promotion, then you could be possibly having one of the being one of the candidates for that. Now, if you are also advised that our stocks do not stay long in our store, so if there is a very fast interval or turnover of inventory, then that could mean the products that you're offering or selling are quality products or have high quality, and the merchandise or the products or services are highly profitable, or they can really easily or sell well. Then if we have better communication, then we have kinetic communication. For kinetic communication, from the term kinetic, you have to be able to refer this to nonverbal behavior, or it can be expressed through nonverbal cues or situation or action. Now, for example, instead of having to reply or respond verbally with yes, or with the phrase "I'm okay," then once you smile, that can suggest that meaning that you wanted to interpret or convey to the other person. Like when you smile at him when you're being asked, "Are you okay?" Then when you smile genuinely, then that could be interpreted that you are indeed okay. A jolly face, a wink, a frown, a sigh, and a nod would convey multifarious possible messages. Now, instead of having to smile when you frown, then that could suggest that you are not actually okay. So the kind of attire, grooming, posture, even the temper, promptness, the industry, the speed, and gestures, this all manifest various possible meanings. So this is what we mean by kinetic communication. Even your body language, the posture, your distance to another person, those would suggest kinetic communication. So, for example, the office personnel would act promptly on requests if there are only follow ups done with these requests. So, the possible meaning for that is the office personnel may be highly inefficient or may be untrained. Now, once you get to, like, let's say, a bank or a restaurant or the ticketing office of an airline company, when you can see a long line of long queue or a long line of customers, then you may be having this very quick in perception that perhaps you may be blaming it on the cashier or on the counter personnel. Maybe they are being slow with their job, or they may not be performing their job the best that they can, or simply put, the restaurant, if there are long lines of guests paying at the the counter or at the cashier, then most likely they are an they have they don't have enough manpower, or they have inadequacy in terms of the number of staff. So if you have seen that when you are selling, like, let's say, sundry items or souvenir products, and once you have noticed that the guests would actually turn um, away from having just read the price tag of the product, then most likely what comes into your mind is that the items that you are selling or the products that you're offering may be perceived as expensive to these people. Then, once you have noticed that the officer starts to dial a number while an employee is still talking, so that could mean you may be advised to, stop with what you are saying, or stop with your concern, and you are being dismissed already, or the conversation's already finished, and you are not going to be entertained or accommodated anymore. Now, when a receptionist offers a magazine to a person who occupies a table but only waits for someone, then you may be advised that that is not a waiting area and only for dining customers. So that could be a signal or a possible meaning of that particular behavior. So you can see here, instead of having to go verbally clear with your interpreted meaning, you actually have the meaning decoded by means of reading through their behavior or their body language or the actions that they exhibit or demonstrate towards you. That is kinetic communication. Now, since we have talked about nonverbal communication, let me inform you that there are five categories of nonverbal communication. Of course, we have facial expression and visual interaction, like eye contact. Now, it's very important, especially in our industry, in the hospitality and tourism, for us to be able to have or maintain good eye contact, because without it, then we may have negative perceptions set in the minds of our target market or our guests. If we fail to establish uh, good eye contact with our client, once we are being questioned about the tour package details, the itinerary, or especially the cost of the tour package, then that could be a signal that you might not be a reliable person to talk to. So that could, of course, affect the quality and outcome of your communication. Now, other category of nonverbal communication includes body movements and gestures, such as the tightening of your muscles, the movement toward or away from the person whom you're talking to. So this could suggest the kind of the feeling or the emotions, or whether you are being accommodated or not. So those could suggest a different meaning. Paralanguages are the characteristics of one's voice. So this also pertains to the loudness, the pitch, and even the tremor of the voice. They could also suggest a nonverbal communication. Why? Um, you don't really have to say words, like, for example, if you are being asked, "Are you okay?" Then without having to say, "I'm okay," or "I'm not okay," but you grunt, or you express a sound that is not appealing to the ears, then that might signal that you are expressing that you are not okay. Then, next, proximity behavior. So, if a person is trying to be near you and trying to position themselves next to you. So that could mean that they want to be close to you, or perhaps that they favor your presence. Of course, otherwise, there is a different meaning. Like when you're observing that your colleagues in the office tend to shy away from you, or once they get to see you, they try to scramble away, farther away from you, then of course you would get easily the meaning that they don't like you or they don't favor you being there in the office. Now, multi channel communication, such as simultaneous interaction between various factors operating in communication, such as, of course, people and activity. Now, it's very common nowadays that we practice not only the traditional way of communicating by means of having to talk to another person uh, through face to face, or when we say meetings, it could be in person meetings. Since the dawn of the digital communication age, we have been already exposed to other alternative methods of communication. And of course, one is through online. Now, we can do meetings hybrid or even through online. So, you would just be using, of course, technological equipment and perhaps a system for you to facilitate the meeting or communication with these other people. So those are the different categories of nonverbal communication. Now let's talk about how to enhance your writing skills and how to make sure that they are effective. Now there are 5 tips that you should always put in mind. First, when you are going to start what you are going to write upon for another person to read, you have to always put the reader's perspective first. How will the reader interpret what you're writing? How will the reader accept it? How will the reader be able to understand it? So you have to put yourselves in the perspective of the reader to better understand how effective your written message would be. Like if it's a memo, or if it's a business correspondence, like a letter or an email. So it is still important to put the perspective of the reader first. Next, when we try to write paragraphs, sentences, we typically fall into the common error of having to write a lot of words. Our messages, responses get to be too wordy. Sometimes even just the simple use of the simple words and short sentences, these are enough to be able to get your message understood better. Why? Because sometimes if we tend to put in a lot of words in what we're writing, chances are, one, it's easily for us to commit mistakes since there are a lot of words that are involved. Second, when we do have this write up and we're only given limited time to read the message, then a brief letter or a very concise message could actually uh, convey what you intend to mean in the shortest possible time. So use simple words and, of course, short sentences. So later on, we're going to have exercises where you would have to be rephrasing sentences into shorter ones. How can you do that? Of course, you have to eliminate words that may not be of essence to a certain sentence. Then use jargon only when necessary. Now, when we say jargon, this is pertaining to the use of very very technical words. Like for example, if you're non-medical or health non-health professional, it's very difficult for you to understand medical terms. When you are asking, uh, doc, or any or the nurse uh, what what is really wrong with your relative or your partner, what is he sick with. If you are if you hear the term, well, he has carcinoma or another medical term that is very hard for you to to decode or to understand, then that is what we mean by using jargon. So if you want to have your written communication effectively understood, then use only this technical jargon when necessary. And if you have to put them, you should be able to put in the meaning, or maybe enclose in parentheses the exact or the layman's term for that, so it can be better or easily understood. Now, write with verbs and nouns. So avoid using passive form of verbs or passive form of sentences. So when you write, as much as possible, you use active voice. So how do you do that? So instead of the letter was received by them, how do you make it from passive to active? So they receive the letter. Okay. So that's how you can convert it into active. So when you are going to use active voice, then you make use of active verbs and nouns. And of course, lastly, adopt suitable format to improve the readability of your written communication. So we make use of different formats or templates depending upon the nature of our correspondence. Like in the business, of course, you make use of memo or memoranda, or let's say a very formal letter of request, or any other ways on how we can assess the suitability of the format of the business document. So, how to make business correspondence? When you are given the writing task, these are questions, guide questions that you can refer to so that you can plan your written task effectively, be able to assess whether there are wrong or errors, wrong aspects or errors in what you're writing. So these are just some of the questions. Like you can ask yourself, who are you writing to? What is the intended purpose of your written communication? Would you want to ask for an information, or suggest a complaint, or like let's say offer an apology? Because those are the kinds of message, or the kinds of correspondence, the purposes in expressing the business correspondence without having to go into further detail. Of course, you just have to read and try to analyze these questions and answer them. And that could already be your guide as to how you're going to make the written documents or written correspondence effectively done. What type of text are you writing? Is it a letter, a report, an email, or a memo? How many pieces of information should you include? Would you be covering very private information? Now that's very tough nowadays because of course we have the Data Privacy Act. So you have to always make sure that what you're writing to another person, especially the VIPs, the bosses, they are going to be advised as to what extent of information can they have access to only. Okay, so the same goes with your customers. Now, what style should you use? Whether it be informal, semi-formal, or a formal letter. So these are the kind of questions you may be interested to. Okay, that you intend to have with your written communication. So aside from these basic questions, You can also make a checklist of questions that could help you assess whether the content and the style of your written document would be acceptable or not. Now, for example, is your answer the right length? Short tasks in exams or tests will usually tell the maximum number of words. So you have to make sure that you start writing already. On the other hand, the letter should be long enough to include all required information clearly in a suitable style. So in some cases you may have multiple sources of information. So it's your job to be able to consolidate this and make sure that your the okay, and make sure that your outputs or your written documents may also be found and may also be appreciated. So these are the examples of questions that you can have the analysis or the review of. So, like for example, you will lose marks if you don't include all the required content points. So you have to check whether you are able to include all the necessary information, whether the content of the written document is sufficient. Is everything that you say in the document clear? Is your style appropriate to the question? Is your style consistent? Will your writing have the effect you want on your reader? And lastly, have you used the correct layout? And of course, does it look professional? So these are just some of the questions or guide when you are considering the content and style. Now, for organization, have you divided your answer into paragraphs so they look like paragraphs? Or does each paragraph have one main idea appropriate to what you're writing? And are the paragraphs in a logical order? Have you used linking expressions to connect the ideas between the paragraphs? So these are just some of the questions for organization of your written document. Organization of the information presented in your written document. How about the language that you make use of? Like, for example, you're trying to impress the one who's going to read the letter, so you try to incorporate words from your foreign language. So that's quite tough because sometimes we know the literal meaning of the words, but when these were combined, then you may not be able to have the correct interpretation. So it's important for you to have to use the same language and to avoid any unnecessary language barrier. Have you included a range of grammatical structures? Have you arranged vocabulary and your vocabulary specific to contact suppliers to complain about something else? Have you used time expressions appropriately? Where do you use like when, after, soon? How about the spelling and punctuation? Now, with I'm not sure if you have heard of the term Jejemon. So some would have jokingly used this in comments, like when you are typing text messages and you're trying to make use of shortened words or slang or language or words that may have different meaning. They made different words literal meaning up to the intended message. No, have you checked for mistakes which you typically often make? So, like of course, grammatical errors, spelling. Okay, so let's try this set of exercises. So we're going to answer this orally. Now, before we proceed, you may have confusions with the use of words like when they use should, could, and would. Now, of course, this could all be used when you're trying to ask for a favor or when you're making requests. However, at times they are having a different interpretation depending on how they were used in the sentence. So you should be able to assess better which would be more perceived as more with good or with better quality. Okay, so let us have the first exercise done. Number one, that shall or should be possible. Yes, Miss Chu. Okay, so that should be possible. Um, Maybe this was intended as a response to a customer inquiring if a certain request of his or her is acceptable or can be possibly done or arranged. Then you would be able to comfort or be able to appease your customer who's worried or who's anxious by making use of this phrase that should be possible. Next, can or shall you give me some product information? Yes, Ms. Zeta, go ahead, Ms. Zeta. Can or shall you give me some product information? Yes, go ahead, Ms. Zeta. Okay. Yes, Ms. Zeta.
Hello? Can you hear
Ayun.
me po?
Okay na. Now, I can hear you
Hello?
clear now. Yes. Go ahead. What's your answer?
Can you give me some product information?
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Po?
Next. Do you think you would send me some more details, please? Yes, Miss Gagi, Debbie.
Could. Do you think you could send me more details, please?
Okay, very good. Now, if you try to imagine if you make use of would, then that could likely be offensive. Or do you think you would send me some more, or perhaps mocking, or in it may be misinterpreted? Next, number four, I would appreciate your suggestions. Yes, Miss Orbita.
Uh, I will appreciate your suggestion.
Okay, so if you have used will here, then it's like telling or guessing or making a statement that you guess in the future that you have the ability to appreciate the suggestion of the other person, but it's more of questionable in that sense because it's like you intend to, but there's a question to it. So the better answer would be, of course, I would appreciate your suggestions. Okay, thank you. Next, let me know what time should suit you best. Yes, Miss Chu? Okay. Please let me know what time would suit you best. Very good. Then lastly, would be grateful if you should give me some information about. Yes, Miss Gagi.
I will be grateful if you could give me some information about.
Okay, definitely that's correct. Okay, so if you have noticed, there are quite times that you may have confusion about the use of such words, but the use or merely the use of one word like could or should or would can have a different meaning altogether once they are used in a sentence. And if you make use of this when you're writing a document, especially when you're drafting a memo as the boss in an office or in an organization, or perhaps in responding to a memo given to you by your boss, then it can all have a different interpretation. And that could affect the output of the intended meaning or the outcome of your conversation, communication with another person. So you really have to take care of how you make use of such words. Now, moving on forward, let's have the next ones muna. Yeah, reading. So let's focus now first on reading. Um, these are the kind of challenges or the supposed intention or outcome of your reading. And there are articles that suggest these have been the common challenges experienced or encountered by college students. And as college students, even if you're taking the ETF program, this could also be the challenges that you may have encountered in your work. So, whether it is having difficulty trying to maintain concentration while reading because perhaps you may have distraction on the side, like you're trying to read an important message sent to you by a client, and yet at the same time, your boss is trying to give you instruction or your colleague is trying to pester you with some juicy gossip. So you'd really have a challenge maintaining concentration once you are doing multitasking because it's difficult to read with good comprehension if you also have your focus given elsewhere. Now, another common challenge would be like identifying similarities and differences between texts because sometimes when you try to read the literal meaning of certain information, you may have difficulty trying to compare and contrast this. And sometimes that would lead to misunderstanding or perhaps finding enough time and energy to read, like, when was the last time you read your favorite novel or you read the newspaper? So these are the challenging tasks in reading, no? Okay, so anyone who can decode and read this aloud? Okay, yes, Miss Debbie. Go ahead, Miss Gaggy.
Inter- Interesting fact. According to research at an English university, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter is at the right place. The rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without a problem. This is because we do not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole.
Okay, very good. So I would presume that everyone has understood it correctly and clearly or even easily. And as what the text suggests, you look at the clues at the first and the last letter of the phrase because the word or last letter of the word, because of course you read it not letter per letter, but of course per word. And if you are going to do reading at a very fast pace, but with good comprehension, you have to read between phrases. Okay. So there are different strategies in reading. And to improve your reading comprehension, you have to improve your vocabulary at the same time. Not only that, you must have good concentration and you must use different techniques, like, for example, identifying the information words in a paragraph. What are information words there? For example, in a whole paragraph that involves or that includes like uh, 3 to 5 sentences. Now, for each sentence, you look at the keywords or the words that could give or suggest the important meaning to the entire sentence, and they can give you easily the clue as to the meaning of the entire phrase. Okay, for listening, you have to understand that listening is not the same as hearing because listening involves comprehension. Hearing is just the acceptance of sounds, but you don't really have to interpret it or make the message out of it. So, when listening, of course, for you to be able to have good speaking skills, you must also master being good listeners. And these are commonly factors to consider to be able to have good listening skills. Of course, there are barriers to listening. Like, for example, if you are being distracted, if you're in an environment where it is very noisy, it's very hard for you to understand what you are listening to. So the choice of words can suggest whether you are able or willing to listen or not. The tone of voice used can suggest a totally different meaning. That's why it can affect whether you're going to do selective listening or whether you're able to listen effectively to the message. The pitch of the voice, even the pace of how the message was drafted and communicated with, the eye contact, the body position, the gestures and facial expression, all this can affect the listening outcomes. So it's important when you do listening, you have to look also into the perspective of the one who's giving you the message. Look beyond the Listen beyond the words, the literal meaning of the words, but try to read between the lines. Listen with gusto, listen with genuine interest towards the other person whom you're talking to. Now, of course, good listening skills can also lead to building effective business presentation skills. Now, in doing such or in achieving such, you have to determine first your purpose. In doing so, you have to consider the following. Who would be your audience? Are you going to be doing your presentation to very important people, to a big group, or to a small group only? Or would your audience be just one person, but it would be the CEO of the company? So before you do your create your purpose or establish your purpose when doing an effective business presentation, you have to consider your audience, even their interests, their concerns, their dislikes, yeah, their preferences, the order of importance. So you have to check the topics that are included in your presentation, how important they are. You have to rank them and make sure that you follow this in good order. Then the time allotted to you, are you given just a brief time period or a very long time to have your presentation done? Now, if you're just given 5 minutes for a business speech, the business presentation, then it's a pitch to a possible group of investors, then you're going to really make the most out of the very limited time. So the purpose, are you going to be informing the other person or the audience? Are you going to persuade them through effective sales and marketing approach? Are you going to help build their loyalty and their appreciation towards your product or service? So make sure that you find enough evidence to support your statement, to make sure once you have established your purpose and you know what information you're going to include, make sure that there's always fact basis. When you also try to read something, like read a proposal or a presentation, you make sure that you have fact check muna. Because without that, you can easily have mistakes or errors. So, what could be very effective source of information? Of course, not Wikipedia, not blogs or vlogs. They should be credible resources, especially if it's online, through libraries, encyclopedias, newspapers, magazines, expert interviews. So always check the source or reference of information. So you can organize your presentation either topical or depending upon the topic. Of course, you can rank them in terms of importance. In terms of chronological, maybe the time sequence is considered here in doing your presentation. Problem or solution, you may present first the details of the problem and then present the solution. Or cause and effect. So this is best for persuasive presentations, the same for problem or solution. But for chronological, it can be done for persuasive, but also for informative presentations. Same with topical presentations. Okay, so when you build effective business presentation, you have to make use of visual tools like outlines or concept maps. So, outline or concept map would include the following: purpose, statement, introduction, the main points that you want to address in your concept map, your subpoints or main issues, evidence to support the points or arguments was tackled in the presentation, the conclusion, and of course, anticipate whether there would be like important questions that would be raised by your audience. Practicing your presentation, you can of course improve your presentation or make sure that it's going to be effective by means of resources like supporting charts, graphs, maps, images, pictures, handouts, video, music. Now, to make your thesis presentation very effective, you can do a lot different style or way by means of just blurting it out, reading the slides, the contents of your presentation. You can do like a video presentation or a video clip, and it can be a good supplement to what you have prepared for your presentation. So, people nowadays, especially depending upon the age of your audience, they're more into audio visual presentation, more of visual. They hear, they listen, they interpret at the same time what they want to see. So it's good to have something visual that to accompany your presentation. Then you can use presentational aids, but make sure that you practice. When you're using notes or like copies of guide, make sure that you maintain your eye contact with your audience and do not read, just read it aloud, because the minute that you put or your eye contact away from your audience, they might lose interest in you and they might be thinking that what you're talking to them is not important anymore. Become aware of your components of your presentation, like your gestures, vocal pitch, facial expressions. All this you have to practice. And the better way to do this, you can do like self practice using in front of the mirror, or come video yourself and review the video afterwards. Or of course you can ask for constructive feedback for another person, especially the one who can give you, highlight to you what could be your errors or mistakes, and not just please you with free praises or recognition. Okay, so that's it. That summarizes the important parts of the business communication. Now, this is a point when I get to hear from you what you have listened to effectively, perhaps, and what you have read effectively as well, what you have understood from our lesson. So, what are your key takeaways from today's summary of business communication lecture, Miss Chu? Anything that you'd like to say to us in terms of key takeaways? Seems you have really learned a lot today. Thank you so much for that, Sue. Yeah. Okay. Even in the brief period that we've discussed this, you were able to mention a lot of important points. Okay. Thank you. How about you, Miss Orbita Raydeline?
Oh, hello, ma'am. My key takeaways in this lesson, I find it exciting, interesting because I learned a lot, and especially the not all replies can verbal can be verbally. It also includes the gestures or how your body language answer, and then in sharing information, it is uh, clearly and professional. It is also maintain the respectful tone in communicating, and then it is also important to know your audience and then choose the right communication method. Like for example, you are in the meetings or you're sending emails, and um, I also learned that active listening avoid misunderstanding, while feedbacks improve teamwork. And it is also important in making communication is always check the grammars and facts. And that's all now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That's also a lot. Thank you so much, Miss Orbita. So let's now hear from Miss Gagi, Debbie.
Hi, ma'am. Good morning. So my learnings for this last one is like for the process of the communication, like how we say the message, how the sender receives how the sender sends the message, how the receiver receives the message. Like, what are is there like a blockage or like a barrier for the process? And then regarding for the meta communication and the kinesis communication, so some words like they have a deep meaning on it, and then body language is very important. Most of the people like don't they don't take it that like a big deal, like for work. So it like it means a lot of meaning for every movement, like what you are doing. And then for writing, like really it's my first, not my first time, like when I'm writing any letter or any memos, any minutes of submitting anything for business, I'm not like putting the reader's perspective first, because like I'm the one who writes, so it's my perspective. So it's my learning now that we should put the reader's perspective first, and use as much as possible simple words and short sentences so we can easily convey the message of what we are writing. And also for the language, we need to make sure that we the what we are using, the language we are using, are the language we will use will be same, or like the language we will use it will be the same, or I'm sorry, because here in Doha we have Arabic and English as main language here. So sometimes, most of the time, people are using Arabic. So in some cases, we ask some my colleagues to translate this thing so we can convey the message properly to the clients or to other people. So we need language is very important, and also for presentation, like you need to be confident. You should check facts, especially there's a lot of fake news now. So everything you need to say about for your presentation, you should fact check that. Like, you cannot any just say any words just to bluff something. No, we need to double check everything. So we have proof that what we said are based on facts. That's it, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so that's also a lot hearing from Miss Kaki. Thank you so much. And of course, lastly, Miss Zeta, can we hear from you? What are your key takeaways?
Hello. My key takeaways for this lesson. First, I learned the meta communication. That is the kind of message that has a corresponding meaning. Like when you say "good job," it might mean like you're a desirable worker. And then kinetic communication is a nonverbal cues, and there's different types of nonverbal, which is facial expression, gesture, uh, tone of voice, proximity behavior like distance, and multi-channel like activities, maybe it hybrid or online. And I learned about the difference of hearing and listening, because hearing involves comprehension while listening is absorbing sounds. And when writing, we have to check for any grammatical errors. Does it look professional? And when communicate for effective communication, we should not use jargons, so it can be easily understood by our audience. And when cascading information, it must come from a credible source. And for building effective presentation, um, we must know who who our audience are, the order of importance, their time, and most especially its purpose. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, really, all of you. I appreciate the interest that you have shown in listening to our lecture today. My apologies, I could not open my camera. I was supposed to have to postpone our class because just this around 2 a.m. I had to rush my husband to the hospital. It was just very fortunate that we got to have him discharged before our class starts. So that's why I that was the last resort, mag-chat pa lang sana ako kung ano, pero buti na lang umabot. So well, I'm very happy that we were able to meet, and sa ETF kasi we really avoid having to make postponements or cancellations because of course we value your time since you're also working, and we appreciate that you intend to have to pursue your professional goals also. That's why always think that we are one with you and we support your cause and we support your goal for here, for this kind of endeavor, especially when you're also having your final requirement in this course, which is your research defense. When we get to meet at that point, so alam nyo na, medyo doon tayo magkakakilala uli na mas mabuti. Okay, so whether it be as your panelist, as your advisor, I would like to uh, bid you, of course, a lot of good luck in your academic journey, and looking forward to meet you again in the next subjects. Now, for the final requirements for the subject, as I mentioned, you were supposed to have a written face-to-face exam, but for the TMP one, I'm going to give it now to you through online. There's going to be a link to Google Forms because what I usually give out written tests for face-to-face exams. But what I have encountered as really a challenge in the last batch was the difficulty in meeting the schedules. Although there was a schedule for the written assessment, but there was a delay in the encoding or computation of grades simply because like one could not attend the face-to-face exam, one couldn't take the exam on time. So I'm going to give it to you now through Google Form, and these are learning assessments and activities at the same time. I know that you have the next class at 11 o'clock with your foreign language professor, Sir Jerome Mauricio. I would have to advise you. You will really find him charming as a French instructor. Mabait si Sir Jerome the same time. Very interesting din. Sabi nga natin, language, di ba? You really hear a lot of French spoken later. Afterwards, you can devote your time to finishing the activities because I'm just worried you might not be able to finish it within an hour. So I would be, after this, I would be creating a group chat for our class, and that's where I would be sending the link. It's just so unfortunate that the account for the LMS was I'm not sure if why it was not under my name. So parang nagkaroon yata ng confusion, but definitely I'll just be sending the copy of the lessons and the lesson and the link to the Google form at 2 o'clock p.m. So You can start answering that at 2 p.m. and I'm going to give you 3 hours. You can finish that until 5 p.m. Okay? So, is that okay with you? Kasi supposedly whole day yung class niya. I've just checked hanggang 2 p.m. lang po pala kayo. So, ngayon, pwede kayong habang naghihintay for your 11 a.m. class, you can do advanced reading on the topic para after your French class at 2 p.m., habang nag-snack kayo, sinasagutan nyo na yung tatlong assessment and activities. So, madali lang naman siya. You'll also find it interesting. Meron siyang reading comprehension test, listening, and may video, and then you have to listen, and then you have to answer certain questions. Meron din essay. So, madali lang naman siya. I would suppose that you will be able to have to answer them with flying colors. So, good luck and see you later. So, right after this, mag-post ako ng GC link doon sa ating GC. Yes, Miss Chu, you have a question? Sorry. Yes, through Messenger, yes. Yes, sige. That's going to be a lot more appreciated. Yes, Miss Chu. Yan. Para i-add nyo na lang po ako. Tapos doon ko na lang ilagay yung ating lesson and yung link at 2 p.m. No? Um, actually, I'll be sending three, wait, let me check. Tatlo ba to? So, learning activity 1, learning activity 2, and then learning assessment. So, two learning activities and one learning assessment. Yeah. Ay, sige, wait lang ha. Ilagay ko yung link dito, no? Wait lang.
Ay, check ko po.
Hi, Ma'am Steph. Yes po. Thank you.
Yan, na-receive ko na po. Salamat.
Yes, just a minute lang po. I-copy ko lang yung link. Thank you. Okay, Miss Chu, were you able to access it? Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much. So we're going to have to leave the Google. I'm going to have to leave the Google Meet na. I'm not sure if you're having the same link with Professor Mauricio. And I'll be just adding here the lesson. And later on, as I promised, I'll be sending the link here, which you're supposed to be able to finish until 5 today. So then after that, you're done with the subject. Okay? Thank you so much. It was so nice having to meet you today for your class in Business Com. And best of luck with the rest of your other courses. So you're going to be having a lot of different interactions. So I'm hoping that when we get to meet for your legal aspects and your strategic or destination marketing course, you'll have to exhibit the same gusto, the same interest. Yan. Sige. So, bawal ma-stress masyado ha. Ingat. Okay. Yes, Miss Chu, you have a concern or question? O wala na. So, I'll just be informing Ma'am Soriano that just for this subject, ganun, na for this subject ha, for the other subjects, then we'll deal with that when we meet already. Okay? So, yun lang. And see you next time. Thank you so much. Ingat kayo lahat. God
Thank you po,
bless.
Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.